we kind of broke up the time in the segment from the last episode as we just power re-listened to it. And the first prediction I heard was from you, and you predicted that a DAO would buy a professional sports team. As far as I know, this didn't strictly happen, but very close with WAGMI United. And so I'm counting that as a win for sure. Even though technically I believe it was just an incorporated entity of a bunch of Web3 people that bought it, rather than it being specifically a DAO that purchased it. Very, very close. And, I was just on their website kind of making sure it was not a DAO that did it, but very cool project. And I'm curious to see how they'll do. They stated their goal is to get them into the English Premier League, which is very difficult to do. And they said, we're aware that this is not going to happen overnight. But it'd be very interesting to see how far they can take it.
That would be so. I would love to, I don't know, in 10, 20, 30 years.
It'd be amazing.
Be like,
they have a squiggle on their jersey. How awesome is that?
I know. It's so awesome.
So yeah, just as a preview, by the way, I found 2 each predictions from us when we listened, and we basically each had one that ended up being super correct and one that ended up being super wrong. Roughly speaking, they're not perfect, because in this case I'm counting this as you being very correct, even though it wasn't a DAO.
Okay.
So that's your correct one. The next one is not going to be as good.
Two Bored Apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff. Two Bored Apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff.
Welcome to episode 66 of Two Bored Apes. I'm your host, Jamie. I'm here with my friend and co-host, Roy. We're just giggling about how 66 is not quite 2/3 of the way to 100. Very funny stuff. Roy, how are you?
I'm good, Jamie. How are you?
I am good.
All right, let's jump into news of the week. No.
Yeah, we got a lot of news of the week.
Should we jump right into it? Skip the food talk?
Let's do it. All right. Let's do it. We have some good food talk that we'll get into organically later, as I am cooking a delicious dinner right now. But let's just jump into the news of the week.
All right. First item you put on there. What's that?
What?
The first item you put on the news of the week list.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think we talked about the Mango exploit on the Solana network 6 episodes ago, 10 episodes ago, or something.
Back. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy Avi Eisenberg, plus his team or whatever, made $110 million from this exploit. And he
gave $40 million back, right, or something?
Yeah, $46 million, I think, as a bug bounty after the fact or whatever. But which this is crazy, tweeted about it at the time and tweeted about how he thought it was legal, which I think means that he's not totally sure it's legal. Otherwise, why would you even do that? I've never made a NFT purchase or sale and tweeted, this is legal. It goes without saying, unless you think there's something possibly shady about it. Anyway, he got arrested in Puerto Rico a couple days ago and charged with market manipulation on this, because it did involve, he had to use, so for our listeners, oracles are basically things that tell sort of one part of a blockchain system what the price is of some sort of coin or whatever, possibly on another blockchain, possibly a completely off-chain piece of data. The oracle will fetch that. So he basically tricked one of these oracles into thinking the price of something was not what it legitimately was by taking both sides of a trade on, I believe it was a centralized exchange. And that was sort of the underpinnings of how he was able to do this $110 million exploit. And so that's where they got the market manipulation idea. And just as a little thing within it, factoid from the case, it basically needed to either be a security or a commodity for them to be able to do this. And they decided in this case that it was a commodity. That's always sort of worth noting. And so that's that basically. People seem pretty happy on crypto Twitter.
Yeah. It's the first instance of someone being charged for market manipulation of a decentralized exchange or a decentralized thing, right?
I don't know the answer to that, but it sounds about right. We definitely are, we've covered in News of the Week various people sort of facing legal ramifications for things they've done in this, but I don't remember market manipulation ever being what they were charged with before this.
Yeah, I think it's like being watched closely because it's the first, and people are curious to see what precedents get set from it, and it will be
Yeah.
interesting to see. Yeah,
I mean, the fact that he took both sides of the trade seems pretty damning.
yeah,
The fact that he admitted it in Twitter, and if you look at the actual filing from the government, they cite his own tweets in it, which is funny. But it does seem like it's very similar to what you would see in TradFi cases that they've, I'm sure, done many times. They meaning the prosecutors, and so. And I mean, obviously, I'm not a legal expert or anything. I can't say it's an open and shut case, but it seems to be so similar to things that doesn't have to relate to blockchains and crypto in any sort of way. Just sort of the fact that it was, there's sort of this idea from a lot of people in the crypto idea that if the code is law, right? Right. And so because I can do this based on this open source software or whatever, it's totally fine. Which we've seen again and again is not the case. You still are residing in countries, jurisdictions that have laws. And even though this stuff is new and there's not tons of explicit laws relating to them, existing laws still exist and you are still beholden to them.
Yeah. I think Avi is like the epitome of a person who thinks code is law and is like based his life decisions on that.
Sort of, but I don't know if you've seen this, but people have been kind of shoving a tweet back in his face where some other thing happened. I don't really know the specifics of it, but some DeFi thing, and he was like yelling at somebody to give me the money back that you guys stole or whatever. And
yeah, that's I have not seen that. That's kind of ridiculous then.
Yeah, and I saw somebody replying to it that they were just engaged in a highly profitable accounting strategy or whatever when they just changed the numbers that made his money disappear in the way that he claimed that this was a highly profitable trading strategy. That was how he opened his tweet series relating to this.
Yeah.
So
that'll be interesting to follow over the next year or two, however long it takes.
Oh, I actually also read this. I think Ryder Rips like countersued Yuga. I saw that as well. Seems
there's something really interesting happening there that I only briefly know about, where they're alleging that, and I don't know all the details, but I think it's something along the lines of Yuga does not own the copyright to any of the Bored Apes because it was computer generated, so something to that effect.
Yeah, so there's a couple things there. One is one that we've talked about before is like sort of goes back to that famous monkey selfie case. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, where the photographer gave a monkey his camera, monkey dropped it, took a photo,
Yeah, and so there's been talk about these generative like profile picture projects in specific, where there's possibly not enough specific, human impact on an individual basis for them to actually have that. But I think this case or this countersuit by him had a little bit more to do with the fact that he's saying that the NFT itself is more, and he's right about this in a way, is more than just the image that's associated with it, right? And so you can't copy that because his things are on a separate contract, which makes them inherently different, even if he's stealing the artwork. I think it had a lot to do with that from what I read. But
there's a bunch of interesting court cases going on in the
it's all so new, and it's going to be fun to see what happens with this stuff based on existing law and what future laws will be enacted, because certainly there's going to be new stuff written in the past. I have so much dog hair on me. I spent a long time
so long with that
before the episode, and I still have more. If I get under a blanket with clothes on in this house, it's just, especially black clothes, it gets covered.
Yeah. Anyway,
this is fascinating for the people not watching the video, and probably equally not fascinating even for the people watching.
Really
the dog hair off of my shirt.
Although you are wearing a pretty cool shirt.
I do. Yeah, it's new. I got this for Christmas. Magneto, big fan of him.
More fascinating Magneto stuff. Card does in Marvel Snap.
Huh?
I said, I wonder what the Magneto card does.
Oh, I actually know. It basically pulls all of your opponent's, I believe, highest power cards to this location. If I remember correctly, something to that effect.
Interesting. Anyway, news of the week. What else do we have? Another big X copy sale.
Yep.
That just happened?
I think so, yeah. I think it was today.
I had not even heard about
morning. Yeah, so last selfie, which I believe was an edition of 10, one of them sold today for 200F.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, a 1-on-1 selling for 200 ETH is insane, let alone an edition of 10.
Yeah. I also saw, people love to do this with Xcopy in particular because he's such an OG or whatever, but bringing up a tweet he sent from early 2019 when he was trying to sell this, that he like sold one for less price because he could not get the edition of 10 to sell out. And I believe it was that one particular that got resold today, if I'm not mistaken.
I saw something in a similar vein where someone found, I think, his old Tumblr from 2017 or 2019, and he posted like, I'm going to run a giveaway for 3 pieces. Anyone that like replies will go in the running, and like they had literally 0 responses.
0.
And so this person, like, 4 years later replies, "Hey, I'd like one," and then tweets at him and being like, "Do I win?" I actually don't know what happened there, but I imagine he's not going to give that person a 1-on-1, but maybe he'll throw them something.
But also maybe like, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Market seems kind of bullish. This is the other thing we have on the news of the week, and like I think this 200 ETH X copy sale is one indicator. Art Blocks has been doing well for a while, but like
Penguins is the one that I had noticed, even though I'm not really
is going crazy. They're like
involved.
6 to 7 ETH now.
7 was the last I saw it crested.
I think Apes are like 80 ETH last I checked.
Yeah.
Renga is doing Terraforms are at like 2.5, 3 ETH. Sappy Seals.
Terraforms I really played poorly. I played those badly.
Terraforms?
Yeah.
Did you get any?
I had 2, I think at least 2. And I held them as they went sideways for a while, and then the market was watching my wallet, and the second I decided to liquidate them, that's when they started taking off.
Well, I think I sold them for maybe all Terraform holders. Thank you.
I think I sold them at like 0.7 or something.
Not bad. Given like a 0.125 mint, I think it was, or something like that.
I didn't mint them though. I bought them at like 0.7, 4 months earlier than when I sold them or whatever.
Well, then that's less impressive, but
it's not impressive at all.
I wasn't going to say it, Jamie, but yeah, that's pathetic. That's just, come on. What are you doing with your hand there?
I got some little grip strength things for as another Christmas present. This one's got 50 pounds of pressure, which is the lowest in the pack. 50 pounds, you can see that there. I'm just kind of working on my grip strength.
You're very into your strength training lately.
Yes, I am. That's true. I've always done a little on and off and with varying degrees of intensity, but lately I've just kind of been in a good groove of maintaining a good system, consistent system, plus eating pretty well.
Nice. What other news of the week? Like we'll get to art blocks and generative art, and then I think let's do like a 2022 recap and some like maybe just quickly touch on the big news items of the year. But and maybe have a look forward to 2023.
Some predictions for 2023.
Yeah, it's been a fairly quiet week, which I guess you'd expect during the Christmas period. Christmas happened. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa.
Yep. Happy holidays.
Happy Boxing Day to our Canadian fans. Belated.
And Australian.
Oh, really? I guess any place that
the Commonwealth probably
related to very recently. I still don't really understand how that works. Like, are you really under their thumb in some sort of way?
I mean, in Australia, not really. I think it's it's very much a figurehead type thing,
right?
Where they have no actual power, but it's like certain just like I don't know if imagine if Australia wanted to go to war, maybe we have to like
ask
get
for permission,
signature, or like whenever a new prime minister is like elected, they have to like they're actually sworn in by the what's his name? Attorney General? Is that the right name?
I
don't know.
Prime Minister? What? I don't know what you're asking.
No, when a new prime minister is elected, there's like a Commonwealth
Prime Minister of
representative.
Australia.
Prime Minister of Australia, yeah.
Okay.
Or I guess any Commonwealth nation, but I'm specifically talking about Australia.
Right.
Then there is a representative of the Commonwealth who swears them in, or like some, I don't know. Pretty sure I learned this in like
You guys should have
first
just fought
class
a
of
war
law
against
school.
them and defeated them like we did. It's so much easier this way.
Is it?
I think so, yeah. That way, when the Queen died and people were making a big deal of it around here, a bunch of us could go, hey, listen, we fought a war, so we
Mhm.
didn't have to care about this, and we won. So stop talking to me about it. I don't care. You
We
guys
went
have to
with
go
a
like, oh,
slightly
the
more.
Queen's dead.
We went with a slightly more peaceful option. We had like a referendum 20 years ago to become like
Right.
a republic.
But that's the cowardly way out. You waited until they weren't that powerful. We fought them when they were still king shit. Oh, well, you lost your chance to fight them, so.
We yeah.
We've gotten off topic.
We have gotten very off topic. I was just about to go into colonialism and all sorts of other.
I would
rabbit
love
holes.
to have a colonialism rant from you. Let's hear it.
It's bad, Jamie. It's bad.
I'm not a fan. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the bullish market? Have you done anything in it, buying, selling, or?
I have not done.
on?
I really want to buy a penguin. Like I've
You have none?
I have none. I had some. I sold some. I bought some. I sold some.
Yeah. Speaking of things that I blew, that was like the worst one.
Yeah, it's definitely up there with one of my biggest fumbles. I had like 18 of those eggs and sold most of them at like 0.02 or something.
The eggs were like the fishing rods?
No. The eggs were the pudgy penguins before they revealed. So
okay. I got them once they were already revealed, but I bought like 6 of them. And then there was like a little bit of FUD and I sold all of them. And it was another one of those ones where the market just waited for Jamie to sell and then went crazy. I sold them at, I think, 0.042 and 0.069, classic meme numbers.
Yeah.
And then they climbed to like 2F within, a week and a half or whatever.
They had a crazy, week and a half last year. And then they tanked again. And they've had one of the craziest arcs. But 6, 7, 8. And
they've had like 3 arcs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like multiple season-long arcs.
All right, I'm going to buy a penguin after this.
All right.
I just
had
Rachel.
help picking a cool one.
No.
I guess I can contribute.
What's that?
Oh, speaking of penguins, I learned the other day, the Mandarin word for penguin literally translates to business goose. I love that. Funny,
That's
right?
amazing.
Yeah.
I'm never not going to think of a penguin as a business goose.
It's a business goose, right.
That's a great name for a NFT PFP collection. The business geese. Wow.
The official Two Bored Apes NFT collection, the business geese. I didn't know.
So last year we saw this year, I guess technically, we saw a pump in January. It's kind of like December was bullish, October, November was kind of bearish. October, November was kind of bearish. January 1st hit and bam, market just took off.
Yeah, so December, you in theory have a lot of sell pressure from people trying to just harvest losses at the end and not trying to incur more gains at the end.
But this year it seems like less of a deal because who had gains this year?
Yeah, that's fairly true. But but the gains are the things that people are trying not to capture. I think it's the losses they're trying to get those. Oh, because you have to offset
because they had gains.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there was enough bullish stuff at the beginning of the year that
January to April.
It's definitely possible to have had a lot. I ended up with a decent amount of gains, certainly. I sold my ape, obviously. How bad would I have had to fuck up to not end the year with gains when I sold my ape this year?
Well, I'm hoping for a January pump. I think we might see one. I think like there's enough catalysts between all the Yuga stuff happening. Moonbird Mythics, I think, start. Doodles, Duplicator, things are happening.
Doodles, such a quiet team, right? That's like what everybody complains about.
Doodles, they went. I think that there was like a funny meme because they hadn't tweeted in like 50-something days
or something.
And it was just like, how there's those
days since an accident.
Yeah, 0 days since a workplace accident. It was 53 days, 54 days since no tweet, and then it was 0 again, and then started counting up again. So, but they've done such an exceptional job at I think their in real life activations are probably the best in the space. From what I hear, I haven't been to any myself, but like their doodle part at Art Basel, everyone raves about, and yeah, they have a real shot of being like that mainstream brand. But I think Pudgy Penguins have flipped doodles, have a higher floor price. They have that cute family friendly brand.
They do. I also saw like a link to an article. I did not click it or read it, but it was basically about how they're sort of trying to do that. I don't know if you looked more into it.
I know that they have like, I don't know, 200,000 followers on Instagram. They're on like Giphy, and they have like just millions of people using penguin GIFs, which is like a really great way of getting mainstream adoption. They're getting like toys and yeah, they're doing a lot of great stuff. So I have penguin for a minute. Maybe I'll sell a couple things and buy a penguin.
Now, do you know specifically? Because I remember when they were pumping a long time ago, it was sort of interesting in that it seemed like a lot of crypto Twitter was getting behind them, as opposed to NFT Twitter, you know, who's obviously usually more involved with NFT projects doing well. Are you aware of whether or not it's more sort of an organic NFT community thing, or if crypto Twitter is just kind of getting excited about them again?
I think both. Like I think the crypto Twitter community has largely still like loved them. Even
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I know a lot of the grails sort of ended up in the hands of rich crypto Twitter people.
yeah,
back
and
then.
they kept them as their PFP for like the last year, and now as they're pumping, it's like just organically new people are finding, like there's so many new people in the space this year that weren't even around last year or the start of this year that have been, oh, look, they're cute and like, there's cool stuff happening, and the community is like, I mean, the founders basically rugged and said, hey, we took all the money, there's nothing left in the treasury, and the floor price was still like 1 ETH. That's how strong the community was. So yeah, in hindsight, probably would have been a good buy a few months ago, but
in hindsight, there's so many good buys all the time.
In hindsight, there were so many good sells.
There's both.
Yeah.
Tons of good buys and sells all the time. If you just only could see the future.
Only could see the past.
I know. No, we can see the past. We can see the past. Or at least remember it. I don't know that you can necessarily see it. Unless it's recorded, yada, yada.
Yada, yada, yada. All right. This is, we didn't do our news of the week intro, but this has been News of the Week.
News of the Week. I did an intro.
Did you? Yeah. I didn't. This episode is sponsored by Evaluate.xyz. Evaluate.xyz is the first live NFT swapping platform on Flow and Ethereum with a built-in chat feature. Users can meet other NFT collectors, negotiate deals, and live swap NFTs in secure trading lobbies. Over 1 million collectors have already used it to manage their Flow and Ethereum NFTs. Start meeting new collectors instantly and swap NFTs by visiting Evaluate.xyz. I
think I might have to head over there because I've been just getting more and more into the NBA lately. Last year, I kind of hopped onto the Celtics bandwagon as they were doing great. Made it all the way to the finals and sadly lost. But I've just been getting more and more into the NBA in general. And, you know, the Top Shot is the NBA NFTs, and Evaluate.xyz is a great place to swap stuff. So, you know, it might be a good way for me to pick up some nice Jaylen Brown Top Shots.
Do you have any Top Shot?
I don't. NFTs? I have some of the UFC ones, which are, you know, the equivalent for UFC
on Flow.
Yes, on Flow Network. And I did tweet out a while ago about getting into Top Shot. It was at a time when the market for Top Shot was very bad, so I had a lot of people going, oh, I don't know. It was sort of a you know, me going, talk me out of this because I'm really thinking about it. This was last season when I was getting really into them. But, you know, as we talked about in this episode, I'm much more of a collector now rather than a trader. So, you know, and actually it also goes into the thing we were talking about with fans wanting to express their fandom through NFTs. You know, as I get more and more into the Celtics and the NBA, I think I'm going to have to.
There you go. And Evaluate.xyz is the place to go.
Yep. Thanks for sponsoring.
Art blocks and generative art in
general. Right. Tell me about The Field.
All right, Jamie. We have the first curated drop of 2023 coming out. The Field by Beer Van Gier, who has previously released a curated drop, Hyperhash, of which you own like 85 of. I think I own 5. which is still a lot.
It is. It's a small collection.
369, yeah. Which used to be the second smallest collection size. It is the second smallest in seasons 1 to 8, but now there's been, I think, 2 drops smaller than that.
That sounds right.
Anyway, first curated drop of 2023, the field, there's 369 of them again. They look a little bit like they've got a bit of a pigments thing going on.
A little bit.
Raster. I see a little bit of that in there.
Okay.
They're interesting. But yeah, I mean, they're animated. They are kind of like wavy. I don't know. How would you describe it?
I would say that the forms are rather organic, right? There's not hard angles in them. Looks kind of natural and organic in that way, but it's sort of I don't know. It's this is one of the ones that, although it's actually relatively simple looking, it's not super easy to just describe, or at least not with our vocabularies. I'm sure somebody smarter could.
All right, I've got in their own words. The first step to reach the field was to capture the algorithmic structure behind all my artworks by compressing several hundred artworks from Hyperhash, Energy Sculpture, Ultrawave, and Hashcrash, their previous projects, into a 64 by 64 matrix. A noise image has been created. This was done by adding up all these works together. This noise image I called the generator was the starting point to explore possibilities for the creation of a new work. The 64 by 64 matrix filled with noise data was embedded in the source of the piece and functions as the core of the field algorithm. So it's kind of like...
It's so funny because there's no way that helped anybody visualize better what it looks like. Even though it sort of describes the process of making it.
It allows people to like conceptualize or like understand conceptually that this is
where it came from.
The previous works put together.
Yes. But in a sort of very sort of mathy and sciencey way, right? It's not actually a artistic you know what I mean? Like in the sense that the work is not artistically linked to them. It just is, but because of the way generative art is sort of so mathy and sciencey in general, it's definitely got those previous works in it. But if you look at it, you're not going, oh, this is obviously, an extension of Hyperhash or anything, because it does not look like them.
No. It's quite interactive as well. You can zoom in and out or like scroll through it. You can press L to activate something called lava mode, and then use WASD to move around as well. And
I'm now doing that, and it's interesting.
It changed quite significantly, especially with the zooming. Anyway, that is the next Artblocks curated drop.
Pretty cool. So that's going to be on January 4th at 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Which it'll be in a few days after this. Wednesday, I believe.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Wednesday's the new curated day. Or I don't know how new that really is, but is the curated day.
Yeah. Other than that, though, pretty quiet in Gen Art land as well, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. What a year, though. Like, in a year when almost everything crashed, I would say Gen Art did not. Like, it crashed the year before. October, November, December last year was pretty calamitous. And maybe January, February was like bleeding out.
Yeah, we had pullbacks, certainly, but it's definitely been the strongest sector, so to speak, of NFTs for the year.
Bucked the trend, outperformed the market.
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting thing. I mean, we've talked about the concept of product market fit before, and how a lot of the other stuff in NFTs are so theoretical, whereas art is just art and it's already done once it's an NFT. But, if you kind of go back one level, right, NFTs themselves have sort of, in my mind, very much been that for the crypto space, where, DeFi is so theoretical for the most part. Like, it's a lot of yield farming and stuff like that, and staking that is not actually serving a purpose, so to speak. It's more to just kind of try and have a somewhat interesting way to distribute the tokens in a way that's kind of maybe fair but incentivized and that sort of thing. But the actual use cases that it theoretically fills, there's only been so much of that. And then all of a sudden, kind of NFTs kind of came out of nowhere, and it seems like have been largely adopted by people that weren't necessarily um, into crypto so much, and have been in a lot of ways poo-pooed by the people who thought of crypto as a purely financial space, right? It was all about um, replacements for money, replacements for TradFi and centralized finance. But it turned out that the blockchain, could be used for something else, and it's been, I would say, so much more successful at onboarding people and sort of teaching them what you can do. Because again, a lot of the stuff with DeFi is just sort of, um, there's a lot of Ponzi-nomics, as people would put it.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of that in NFTs as well, but
For
it's
sure.
It 100% appeals to like a massively wider audience than
Yeah.
I've said crypto is like and DeFi and everything pre NFTs appealed to people that were like into tech and or finance. Basically no one else. And then NFTs comes along and you get people who are into art and
It's a culture
and
thing,
gaming.
right? Culture.
Yeah. How do we get in this topic?
We were talking about how generative art did pretty well this year. And I was sort of talking about how, if you look at generative art as a subset of NFTs, then you can also look at NFTs as a subset of crypto in the way that they are sort of accidentally and organically being great use cases that were not necessarily predicted by, the proponent of the level before it, so to speak.
Yeah. January. What else are we looking forward to in January?
I personally am looking very forward to what's called January, because I've been super duper slacking on creating art lately, and this is a great chance to get back into it. It's always so gratifying when I do it, and yet I often have a very tough time finding the time to do it. But this is a fun sort of social way to do it.
Now, what is January again?
So it's basically a group. Group is an interesting word. It's an activity sort of done by lots of generative artists. I think maybe Peter Pasma is sort of one of the biggest brains behind it. But basically, every day of January, you have a prompt, and all sorts of people that are interested in generative art, specifically making it, will look at that prompt, interpret it in their own sort of way, and then produce a piece. And then, if you want, post it on social media, which is, usually what people do. So for instance, I'm looking at the prompts right now because they're already out. I think that these are 2023 is not the ones that were used this year, because this has been going for a while now. January 1 is a perfect loop / endless GIF. And so, you try and make one of those, right? January 2nd is something that's made in 10 minutes. So it's sort of a speed run. January 3rd, glitch art. January 4th, intersections, January 9th, plants, etc.
It sounds amazing and like
so
really difficult.
Yes, especially for me, or even more so you, who have just kind of dabbled.
Do it, yeah.
No, I know you're not, but you did try doing some generative art very briefly earlier this year. But also, you say you're not going to do it, and I'm saying it would be difficult. You could still try on, not necessarily every one, but find a prompt that sounds a little bit easier, a little bit more fun. Like, for instance, January 19th, it's just black and white. So that's an easy enough prompt. You don't have to do any sort of complex forms or get into any sort of maybe, mathy stuff like sine waves or whatever that you might not know about. You just need to do black and white. And so that's very easy. That, any skill level can do something like that. And that would be fun. But yeah, I was trying to talk over you, but I let you in a minute ago. I've previously enjoyed other people's January things, watched them, but I never actually participated. So it'll be fun this year coming up. I will be participating. I can't promise that I'm going to do every single day. I'm going to try for sure.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing yours and what other people come up with. It sounds like a really fun.
It's a very fun time.
Yeah.
And I'm
You know what? I've
looking
been having a
forward.
lot.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I'm looking forward to Zach Lieberman making me and many other generative artists feel bad about, because the stuff that he puts out on a daily basis is just amazing to me. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen on his website, he has a print shop where he just sells prints of some of this stuff. That looks awesome, and he shows the prints on Twitter fairly often. He's got some printer he uses, and the stuff comes out amazing looking. I was actually looking at it today. I haven't picked any out to buy, but I'm thinking about some.
I am now looking
Like the light
at
study
his.
ones in
Yeah.
particular that
Wow.
he's done lately are very neat.
What was I going to say? I've been having a lot of fun creating art with Midjourney, just putting in text prompts and coming up with really cool looking outputs as Jamie is still pulling dog hair off his shirt.
Pretty good though right now. There's very little left. Oh, here's a good one.
I mean, you got some on your left forearm there.
What do you think is my left forearm? Because there's like a mirrored
Your
thing
left.
happening.
Have you used any of these AI?
Just the
image
tiniest bit.
generators?
Like for instance, what was the one that we were quite into the project?
Eponym.
Eponym, yeah. So I did quite a bit on Eponym, and that was a lot of fun. But I haven't actually used any of these sort of more modern, open source, non NFT ones.
I think you would
much.
love it. Like
So
you were really into putting like old historic battles in there
Yeah,
and seeing what it came out with.
I loved that. The assassination of Julius Caesar, which is one that I did, and I still have that and still love it. It's in my vault.
You
So what
just
have you?
put that prompt in, the assassination of Julius Caesar?
You just did?
No, is that exactly what you did? Because I'm going to do that.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna
I'd
do
be
that
curious
live.
to look at what it does.
Yeah.
Can you share your screen and show us what it looks like?
I
That would be
can.
fun.
Let me just see.
So,
'Cause
but
it's done via Discord. That's fine.
as you
Everyone
were
can just see.
doing that, what have you? You're saying you've been doing it a lot lately. What kinds of things have you been putting in, and to what end?
All sorts of things. So like I have doing a new Twitter space in the new year, and we needed like some imagery to like tease it out, and I just put in like create some microphones that look magical and add some purple to it and created this amazing graphic for that. I've just been experimenting with like I needed maybe a new graphic for my Substack. So it was like create a typewriter on a desk with in a library and see what comes up with that, and just it's really fun.
So have you? I've used it so little now. Can you give it a prompt and then give it a thing to edit that with, or do you have to go back to the original prompt and just add words to it?
You
Like,
can upload an image, so you can have it make something,
right,
and then
feed it back.
Feed that back into it, and then
With what though? Like just more words, basically, like add purple, for instance.
I think so, but I think that there's so many other tools. This is just one tool, Midjourney. I'm just gonna send the command, and you can do things like put an image in and then just ask it to like fill in like the edges with whatever it thinks should go there. And there's ones where you get like your own little paintbrush or something, and you can go around and touch it up, or you can erase things from it, and yeah.
You got a lot of unread notifications there in Discord, pal.
Mm-hmm. A lot of DMs and 716 friend messages. Yeah.
So
I'm in holiday mode right now.
Somebody's doing some Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff.
Where's that?
Like 4 up from here, somebody did.
Oh, here we go.
Kenobi. Oh wow, that's interesting. Only one of those doesn't look like he's actually being assassinated.
Top right.
Yeah. Top left, it looks like he's just successfully killed somebody. The bottom left kind of looks like maybe he's bleeding out.
Yeah.
But he got stabbed so many times, he was not standing like that.
So what you can do is you can get variations. So let's go variations on number 2.
Okay. Interesting.
And I asked for a few more samples and so you can do like the assassination of Julius Caesar in the style of The Simpsons.
Right. Donatello or
or like a realistic photo.
Oh, I saw somebody's Twitter. They basically called it like historical selfies or whatever. And so they're basically doing the realistic style, like you were just saying, of themselves in all sorts of historical things that they never could have possibly been part of, which is very cool. I think they did one of them in front of the Trojan horse, for instance.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it is. It was interesting to look at. Now, is there a
Here we go, a
web
couple more.
interface for this, or is Discord the only place
For this one, Discord is the only place, Midjourney, but there are other ones that have.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
Dolly, I guess, was one of the famous ones, right? I think there's
Anyway.
one other big one, right? There's the three that I feel like are somewhat
Dolly,
commonly known.
Midjourney, Stable Diffusion.
Stable Diffusion, right?
Yeah. So I've been having just a lot of fun just playing around with that, just putting random prompts in and seeing what comes out, and then tinkering and yeah.
For fun, and also it sounds like a little bit for sort of work, so to speak.
For work, yeah.
Getting stuff for your Substack.
And thinking about how like I can use it more, not just like image generators, but like text, like Chat GPT and other things, just because I think it's such a powerful unlock that once you can come up with like systems to help, I don't know, instead of reading a full article, just get it to like distill the pertinent points.
Right.
Stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway, we got off topic, but I have a tendency these days. So I tend to bring all conversations to one or two things, either art blocks or AI lately.
Yeah, AI specifically, I feel like art blocks has been sort of a long running thing, but lately AI is more what you're interested in. I saw a tweet the other day, all this AI stuff that was basically talking about the pace of the change and kind of telling you how recently GPT-3 was and how recently all these other things was. And it was kind of sort of eye-opening when you think about how quickly those things are happening and how, big and powerful they feel.
Yeah.
And how
like GPT-4 is not that far off, and it's apparently like orders of magnitude more powerful than GPT 3.5, which is what we're accustomed to right now.
Right.
It's mind-blowing.
And we haven't even really seen like Google and Facebook, who have so much data's responses, and we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are working furiously and have stuff there. They're just kind of
and Russia and China.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I guess when you're talking about something like Russia, I don't know much, whereas I have or at least more so used to have an understanding of the Chinese tech landscape and who sort of the big players are there. Whereas in Russia, I guess it would have to sort of all be purely state sponsored as far as I know.
Yeah, I would imagine the same, but
whereas China has a bunch of big tech companies that are sort of their versions of ours or ones that don't really have analogies.
What's that really big one? Tencent or something?
Tencent, is sort of the big one. They own stakes in all the American ones, plus a bunch of other stuff.
The next few years are going to be crazy, Jamie.
For sure. This has been art blocks and generative art in general.
Let's each pick 3 milestone or key events that really stand out for 2022.
Year? Okay.
Yeah. And then let's maybe just make some predictions for 2023.
So it's December 29th as we're recording this. So we thought it would be sort of fun to do a little bit of a recap of the year for us on a sort of personal, but also within the space year. And so we've wrote down sort of our 3 biggest things in our heads of what happened for us this year. And we're just going to talk about them with each other and with you, the listeners.
Should we go one by one each?
Yeah, probably. I think so. I have my 3 here. Why don't you go first, though? Because I just talked for a bit.
You know what would also be fun is if we try to guess each other's.
Yeah.
Could
be fun.
I know one of yours, obviously, is you selling your ape, but
right.
The other 2 are a little more up in the air. I will start with NFT NYC, which is kind of funny because I had COVID and I didn't do much other than stay in my hotel room the whole time. But it was like the first big in real life activation of a Zen Academy thing.
That's so funny.
I know. I mean, actually, before that, we had one in Amsterdam, Met Amsterdam, and that was amazing. But like the New York City one was just much larger and way more people.
Right.
And by all accounts, it was extremely successful and well executed. And we had so many people from the team come together to pull it off.
I got to meet your sister,
Especially
which
given
was so fun.
what's that?
I got to meet your sister and specifically meeting her without you around, which was a lot of
Yeah.
fun for both of us.
I bet it was.
It
Um,
really was.
yeah, you were there. My sister was there. I don't know. Half the Zen Academy team was there. I was literally a 10-minute walk away in my hotel room. But we had two events. We had the Zen Academy general event in a bookstore.
Which I attended and you did not.
And we had a 3-3 event at an event, just a venue. I don't know what else to call it. And it
Nice and
both
vague.
seemed like,
A
yeah.
venue.
I mean, I wasn't there, Jamie.
That's true. Neither was I.
um,
That one I was not allowed to attend.
you were not, but yeah, it was really cool seeing it come together, seeing photos, hearing feedback from people, and it really just like that. Plus, I guess met Amsterdam before when I actually got to interact with people. Really showed me the power of community interacting, like away from Twitter and Discord, and like actually getting to know people and spend time with them, and the power of that. So definitely spent more of the year and planning to spend more of 2023 in real life with events and stuff like that. So that was a big one for me. What's your
Yeah,
first
well, I mean, at the bookstore, I was like, oh, wow, Zen Academy is sort of like a legitimate project. Look at
one?
this. There's food, there's people. It's like a hosted event in a real business.
It's not just Roy
Zeneca's not
doing
here
some
because he got
random.
COVID, but, aside
Yeah.
from that, it's very legitimate.
To be fair, like I don't know, 9 months prior to that, I was just 18 months prior to that, I was just a degen poker player bum that didn't do anything.
Right.
And then 9 months prior to that, I was launching Zen Academy. I'm like, no roadmap, let's just wing it and see what
Yeah.
happens. And yeah,
Well, you kind of spoiled the punch on this one, but yeah, I sold my ape in May, the very end of May, which was kind of crazy because so when I bought it, it was a half an F and I had listed it for 32. That was sort of my idea for a very long time, was that if I can get the price of a F validator node, how could I possibly want to have this thing more than it? But as the price approached 32, it seemed like the project had so much momentum and all of that going, so I ended up delisting it and held it for quite a bit longer than however long it ended up taking to get to 32. But it was just such a huge thing to be a part of, and then this the size of the financial size of the asset eventually was also a huge thing, so to sell it was also big. um so that was a thing that is the top of my mind when I think of my year in NFTs, because you know when we started this podcast, it was called Two Bored Apes, right? It was about us and having bored apes. And the thing that we settled into for a long time was we had two segments, basically. We would talk about the
yeah,
Bored Ape Yacht Club, and then we would talk about art blocks. And we've kind of drifted from that. But certainly it was a thing that I was paying a ton of attention to. And, the other thing is, I don't know how much you attribute for you, but for me, my Twitter following was so much because at the beginning there was such a thing of that ape follow ape concept on Twitter, um, which is what got me sort of clued into what was going on in the NFT space in general. What got me any sort of the digital relationships for the most part that I've made was all on Twitter through the community that was following the ape follow ape mantra. Got me, almost probably 75-80% of the people that followed me on Substack. I got through Twitter through people following me because I was part of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And I was thinking about it the other day. I was looking in my closet at a bunch of the merch, but also thinking about how much fun I had doing the treasure hunt, and getting wrecked by those professionals who were amazing. People got mad. Did not, but also playing the mutant
the
versus
game.
apes arcade game, and just there was a lot of fun times involved in it, aside from how well it ended up working out financially for me. And so that whole journey, ended
Yeah.
this year. and that was a big thing.
End of an era.
Yep.
1 year and 1 day. Is that correct?
No, it was 1 year. It was like 1 year and 14 hours or whatever. Because
It is so crazy.
yeah, it was very crazy, and it was like literally happened as an accident. It looks like a perfect tax move, but it had been listed for so long at comparably small premiums to the floor price and hadn't been bought until it's something like, I don't know if it was 8 hours or whatever
Yeah.
to the day.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And now that I've been looking a little bit at my tax bill for the year, it's like, whew, thank God it didn't get bought early, because the difference is freaking huge.
Yeah.
So that's my
That's
number
a big
one.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2 I have here is releasing the 30 Days of NFTs course, which it took, I think, 4 to 5 months from idea to release. Emily, who was on the Zen Academy team,
Emily V.
had the idea. Emily V. Yeah, I think she just
who I
brought it
met
up
at
one
that
day.
very same bookstore event we just talked about.
You did. She basically ran the show. In my stead, she took over and did all the organizing.
Should we
She
call
was
it
already
Emily
doing a lot of the
Academy,
organizing.
really, or you want to stick
What's
with
that?
we should call it Emily Academy, maybe.
Sure, M Academy. Actually, M Academy works perfectly because Mushroom and Momo are like two head of technology and operations. They both start with an M. M. This is going to be a thing now. It's
Yeah,
not
we got
Zen
a
Academy.
big
It's M
rebrand
Academy.
coming in
There
2023.
you go. And change the logo and everything. What was I saying? Yeah, so the 30 Days of NFTs course, it has onboarded, I think, at least 1,000 people, I think, to NFTs, which is significant. There's been about 5,000 people that have signed up to the course, but I know a lot of them have been people that were already in the space, but I would say 20% of them are probably brand new to NFTs and were like kind of curious about it and had a friend or a family member tell them about it. And we received a lot of emails in reply, because people can just respond to any day of the course, and we get the email and they're like, I've been curious and always found it too confusing, and this course really helped me. And that to me was like very significant. And yeah, it's been out for like, I think, less than 3 months, and we've had about 5,000 people sign up. And I think that it's going to be one of the biggest things that comes out of Zen Academy. Like this 30 days course concept, we've done NFTs, we're working on 30 days of crypto, and just this format of teaching people complicated things over the course of 30 days so it's not overwhelming is just brilliant. And yeah, I take no credit for the idea as Emily, but I'm very proud.
The execution you got to take some
credit
credit for, right?
Yeah, I mean, collectively, I think 5 or 6 of us worked on various parts of it.
5, 4, 6. That's an interesting way to say that.
5 or 6.
Oh, I thought you were doing that.
5, 4, 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Normal people would say 4 to 6, but if you want to say 5, 4, 6, that's fine.
5, 4, 6. 546. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a little curious about that. You have the 30 days of NFTs thing, and we talked about it before, so people can, it's the 30 days are sort of custom, right? So anybody that signs up for it will get day 1 and then day 2. Now, is there any refining or considering of refining and going back and going, oh, we could make this a little bit better? Or
we've already done that a bunch.
Yeah, okay. Keep that makes sense to me as times change and as you have kind of new perspectives, new things come out, just kind of update it a little bit. So it can be kind of a nice evergreen
I recently
thing.
saw something really interesting. It's a new wallet called Zen Go, I think, and there's a bunch of these new wallet types. They're called social wallets, where you don't need a seed phrase to secure your assets. It uses like biometrics and a couple of other things, like 3-factor auth, they call it. And effectively, it's like an approach to mainstreaming based on the idea that most people are not going to be able to safely secure a seed phrase. Anyway, and I was like, hey, maybe that's something we should add into the course. So yeah, there's been a lot of fine tuning. The first month or so was just like errors and like typos or grammatical errors or broken link or something like that. And then it was like we have like additional content at the end of each day. So it's like if there's a great YouTube video that we think someone should watch on a certain day, it's like, oh, let's go back and add that in and stuff like that. So
cool.
Yeah. What's your number 2?
So I have these in not necessarily any particular order. The second
Mm.
one here is that I finished my frag set. As listeners of the podcast, and as you know, I talked
Mhm.
about it quite a bit, where I was just kind of shopping for it. I had, if I remember correctly, I pretty quickly had a summer and spring piece that I was very happy with. And so I was for a long time trying to fill in the spaces of um, getting an autumn and a winter piece. And I was in the Art Blocks trade channel constantly with my list of like 32 different winter ones that I quite liked, and maybe a dozen of the autumn ones that I quite liked, just constantly trying to make a trade, looking for them, bidding on the ones that I liked. I have, bookmarked folders on my Google Chrome with just every
Mm.
single one of them on LooksRare and every single one of them on OpenSea. And I would just right click it, open all tabs, and then put in my bid for all of them over and over and over again. And then eventually I managed to land one of each that I really liked, and I've got my set now, and I'm very happy about it. I still have not got my prints for them, which I'm definitely going to do. Um, but yeah, as you and I have probably both talked about, when we got into NFTs in general, there was a level of just kind of financial cynicism to it, right? It seemed like a legitimate thing in a way that we went, oh, this is a real thing. So if we buy some of these, we're liable to make money.
Mm.
Um, and then, as we have both seen, it's become so much bigger for the both of us than just that. Oh, this might be an interesting way to buy something that'll go up in price. Um, and obviously, also specifically for both of us, Art Blocks has been a big part of that, and being true fans of this generative art movement or whatever.
Mm.
And that project in particular was one that spoke to me, and I liked the way that the seasons gave you a natural way to want to collect multiple of them. Um, and so for me, that transition from just getting into the space in a way to go, oh, let me buy one of these and maybe I'll be able to sell it later because it's a real thing, to just this all-encompassing thing where now we've got a podcast about it, and blah blah blah, right? This was sort of symbolic of that, and it was a thing that I had really spent a lot of time working on this collection and curating it. um, and then for it to finally get finished was cool. I was very happy with that. And the autumn one was tough because there was not a ton that I liked, and
Mm.
of like the 10 that I liked, 3 of them were owned by, like, Keyboard Monkey and
Right.
6529 or
Punk
whatever.
6529,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was not super easy to ever get one, and I managed to, so that was cool.
Nice. That's a fun achievement. I'm trying to think if I have a set. I'm pretty sure I still need an autumn. Anyway,
But you do have a
um,
storm summer, which is cool, if I remember correctly, at least,
yeah, I minted
which is cool.
that. I minted that, and I mean, I think they were selling for like 120 ETH, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't. But anyway,
We don't want to play that game
um,
again.
yeah, infinite regret.
Dino Pals.
Yeah. Number
Whatever.
3, again, in no particular order for me, the launch of Zen chests and like the transition to like the next phase of Zen Academy as we're moving towards the PFP project and away from the original letters. That was a big event. It happened about a month, 6 weeks ago, and a lot of work went into it, and it's just the beginning. So it's like that culmination of, hey, we're going to do a PFP. How are we going to do it? What are the mechanics going to be? How do we do it mechanically, like technically? How do we get the artwork together and build it all out? The website, just bringing the team together and seeing that happen. That was, to me, yeah, it has to be one of the most significant things that we've done at Zen Academy that I've done ever. Um, and it's just the beginning. So it's like
Right,
all of
because
these things is
it's
also just
very
like,
transitional, right? Where it's
mm-hmm,
part of the significance is the look to the future of what it really means, because the the chests are the placeholder for what comes
mm-hmm,
next. But that's funny. That's kind of similar to my thing, right? Where it's this, we we were here and now we're sort of
yeah,
going here, and this is a thing that kind of um symbolizes that transitional period.
yeah. And it's also all three things really are symbolic of just the entirety of Zen Academy growing over the last 12 months, because we launched in November last year. So it was basically in its pure infancy in January. It's still kind of in its infancy now, but
It's like in its
there was
toddlercy.
toddlercy, yeah. It was largely me, a couple of community managers, and a bunch of volunteer mods in January, and now there's like 24 people on payroll, and it's just like it's insane
Yeah.
just the growth in a year, in a bear market, and like floor prices gone up, community is thriving. I'm very proud of where we've gone and what we've done, and like the next 6 months to me are like super exciting. We have student IDs coming out in 3 weeks if all goes to plan, and then PFPs in the next 3 months if all goes to plan, and then beyond, courses and content and media and events, in real life events. A Zen retreat in Bali is like something we're looking to do. And
I've never
yeah.
been. Have you?
Yes, I've been once.
Right on.
Yeah,
That could be a fun excuse to head somewhere for me, somewhere I've never
there you
been,
go.
which I like doing.
Yeah, so that's my number 3, and all really just tied in together with just the rise of Zen Academy all year. So what's your number 3?
So my number 3 is similar to sort of my number 2 and the theme of your number 3, but excuse me, in May and June, there was a bit of we talked about this a little bit early in the generative art thing, where it was a good year overall, but there was definitely some periods where there was a lull. Sorry. And May and June were one of those. And I've talked about kind of wanting to have a full curated set, which is probably never going to happen because of Fidenzas, ringers, and elevated deconstructions. But I was okay with that knowledge and still working to get closer to it. And so, in May and June, I used that opportunity to sort of do a sweep, and I managed to pick up 18 one piece from 18 different curated collections that I did not have for a shockingly low total price. And so that was just really felt great to basically double the number of Art Blocks curated projects I have and get so much closer to a full set. And at the same time, or shortly thereafter, in August, I did a lot of decluttering of, a lot of the projects from sort of my more cynical flipping time, getting, a lot of these sort of community projects in communities that I didn't have time to participate in, and ones that for the most part fizzled out anyway. And so I basically, again, on that sort of transition from trader to collector, that May, June, acquiring a lot more of that stuff, and then in August getting rid of a lot of that other stuff. That sort of just change in the composition of my portfolio, was again sort of symbolic on where I've gone and where I want to continue to go in the space.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, what that made me think of is like the phase you went through bidding on elementals and just like buying element, like,
Yeah, I mean that was
it
huge
must have been
last
like
year, but doesn't
yeah, it was
qualify for this year. Yep.
last year, but for like 6 weeks, all Jamie did and spoke about was, I'm bidding on elementals again. I just bought another elemental.
So
elementals
funny
are the best
how
collection
much
in the
time I
world. The best
wasted
NFT
before we
ever is
had
elemental.
before we had collection offers. I wasted so much time doing stuff like that. And it was funny too, because we would talk about how there was other stuff I ought to be looking at, and I would like be at my computer ostensibly trying to do other things and just find myself bidding on elementals again.
Yeah.
Just opening up the collection, maybe every 3 going, oh, I like that one quite a bit, open a tab, oh, I like that one, and just do that until I had 70 tabs open, and then just go do-do-do, 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 bidding over and over again.
And it worked out great. I think
did.
you ended up with like, what, 14 of them or something?
It's hard to know. I think I had 11. I think I had maybe 13 Stipple Sunsets at my peak and 11 Elementals, if I remember correctly.
Stipple Sunsets, that was a fun era.
Yeah, my first ever
journey.
NFT.
Yeah.
My
And I
actually,
think like
my first like
between
8 NFTs technically, because I
yeah,
minted a bunch of them.
between our group chat, we must have minted like 50 of them.
Yeah, probably a
Yeah.
good 25% of the collection or something went to us.
Yeah. Good times. Well, that was 2022.
That's our
What a
recap.
year. Yeah.
What a
Should
year.
we what a year. A bear market. A lot happened for a bear market.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you also look at like, I saw some people tweeting about this kind of recently, but just the degree of the bad news that happened in the space
Mm.
is so colossal. And basically, if you look at the all-time 4 biggest negative events in crypto, like 3 of them happened this year.
Yeah.
And so to be where we still are, it feels pretty good in a lot of ways.
All right, now we're going to do something fun. For those long-time listeners, last December, Jamie and I recorded an episode where we recapped 2021 and gave some predictions for 2022. So we've gone back and listened to our old predictions, and we're going to judge them now. Judge each other, judge our predictions, judge our past selves, and see how we did. We have like 4 or 5 each,
Yep.
roughly, that we'll get to. Jamie, why don't you kick us off with? How about Jamie? You tell me my predictions, and I'll tell you yours.
Okay.
Then...
So we kind of broke up the time in the segment from the last episode as we just power re-listened to it. And the first prediction I heard was from you, and you predicted that a DAO would buy a professional sports team. As far as I know, this didn't strictly happen, but very close with WAGMI United. And so I'm counting that as a win for sure. Even though technically I believe it was just an incorporated entity of a bunch of Web3 people that bought it, rather than it being specifically a DAO that purchased it.
Yeah.
Very, very close. And, I was just on their website kind of making sure it was not a DAO that did it, but very cool project. And
yeah,
I'm curious to see how they'll do. They stated their goal is to get them into the English Premier League, which is very difficult to do. And they said, we're aware that this is not going to happen overnight.
Yeah,
but it'd be very interesting to see how far they can take it.
That would be so. I would love to, like, I don't know, in 10, 20, 30 years.
That'd be amazing.
Be like,
they have a squiggle on their jersey. How awesome is that?
I know. It's so awesome.
So yeah, just as a preview, by the way, I found 2 each predictions from us when we listened, and we basically each had one that ended up being super correct and one that ended up being super wrong. Roughly speaking, they're not perfect, because in this case I'm counting this as you being very correct, even though it wasn't a DAO.
Okay.
So that's your correct one. The next one is not going to be as good.
I got one from you, which is I guess closely related. You thought there would be new fan experiences for NFTs. For instance, people supporting their favorite sports teams by buying an NFT. Like, people buy merch and all sorts of stuff to support and represent their
fandom.
Sports teams and fandom. You thought that would happen on a much larger scale this year. I think we've seen like sprinkles of it, but it hasn't like really.
Yeah, that's like a partially correct one, I would
yet.
say.
Yeah, partially correct.
I remember
we've seen you.
Sorry, I think maybe it was the World Series, which is the big baseball thing. They gave away basically an NFT to everybody in the stands at Game 1 or something to that effect at a very big American thing. So there's definitely been some elements of it, but possibly not exactly in the fundraising way, or it's been sort of maybe pushed down onto the fans from the teams, rather than maybe in the way that I was sort of predicting that the fans would use it to express themselves and kind of have it go bottom up.
And there's been what I would say is kind of like new fan experiences, but without the sports teams. If you look at Reddit and Starbucks, like they're releasing NFTs that are giving the users and fans of the platforms.
Yeah, I mean, a rewards program for Starbucks, that's almost literally the concept of a fan of Starbucks. Frequent customer, maybe if you want to be more cynical, but same concept at the very least.
Yeah. So I would say that's mostly correct. I'll give you a win there.
Should I go to your wrong one and then go to mine, or do you want to switch it up and I'll predict one? It doesn't
Let's switch
matter.
it up. Go to.
Okay. So the
Yeah.
first one I heard for me was that I was talking about how we're going to see more legal wrangling of the space, more cases.
Mm,
And I
it's very
specifically
correct.
said that I thought art was going to succeed because it has such a strong First Amendment argument, and DAOs were going to be
Hmm.
much tougher. And I'm counting that one definitely as a win for myself.
Yeah. Tons of legal cases. We were just chatting about that earlier.
Yeah. It
And
seems
art
almost
is.
like DAOs have, in a large part, stopped being a thing, right? People are not so like, why are you laughing?
One of my predictions. DAOs are going to be one of the big talks of the year.
Yeah. I mean, it does to me feel like people are aware of how gray at best they are legally, and are shying away from the idea of attaching them to every single project and
Mm,
having lots of power invested in them, right? Almost in the same way that we talked about with Avi in News of the Week, where you know you have the idealistic idea that because it's this way,
mm.
it's safe legally, but the reality does not appear to be that way.
And not even the legal gray area. I think more and more people are realizing just how inefficient they are and how difficult they are to like get stuff done and organize people and just do things
Yeah, people
because
people don't necessarily want to participate,
yeah,
um, and don't care enough to in so many ways.
yeah. There's a reason we invented hierarchical structures of
Yeah.
organizations because you elect someone to just make quick decisions and trust that they're going to
Have
do
you paid
good
attention
shit.
to nouns much? I feel like there's a lot of sort of talk about how easy it has been for people to extract money from Nouns DAO with whatever proposals they want.
Yeah.
And there's been some talk of people. I think it's been less successful in Ape DAO, but a lot of people kind of
Mm,
having the same aim in Ape DAO, where they go, "Oh, I'll do some T-shirts if you give me $250,000," and that kind of thing. And
yeah.
it seems like in Nouns, there's been a lot of people going, "Okay, sure," because the
Yeah.
voters just say so and don't care so much.
And they have so much money.
Right.
Like, yeah. Um, that was your prediction of
Yeah.
yourself. I'll give one of mine that was, I think, quite wrong. I said gaming NFTs will perform well all year. And we're going to see existing gaming projects kind of really take off and new projects do really well. And I think that, I mean, the whole market has done terribly, but I think gaming projects maybe have done especially terribly.
Yeah. Like if you look
The
at
whole
like Zed
concept
and
of,
Axie in particular,
yeah,
they did very bad. I mean, now when did Wolf Game start? Because if that was this year, this is sort of a trend bucking one in that sense where,
yeah. Wolf Game, I think, had launched late last year,
yeah,
but it
it has
maybe it was
stayed.
early.
I mean, obviously, it reached crazy peaks initially, but I feel like every time I come across pieces of it or whatever, it seems like the prices are still pretty reasonable.
Yep, I mean they've had a real resurgence lately. I don't know if you saw, but Snowfro bought a A8 Wolf or something like the
An
highest
Alpha
tier
Wolf or
Wolf
whatever.
for 75 ETH and
Wow.
two unminted squiggles,
I did
which is
not
kind
see
of
that. That's cool.
a great currency to be able to
Yeah,
offer
no kidding.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely buck the trend. And also I guess Digi Daigaku, that free mint that went to like 10 plus
Yeah, so
ETH.
that's another one of those gaming ones where the game is in the future, right? And that, right now you just have a picture placeholder, as far as I know.
I don't actually know.
Yeah, so one of the guys I follow a lot on Twitter, I've talked about him before. He was very into that project and would sort of retweet onto my feed I think Gabe is the name of the guy who's behind the
Mm,
project, if I remember correctly, who had some, traditional gaming credentials that were significant. But as far as I can tell, that's another one where it is very future. But as you're sort of implying here, the price action of it has been much better than a
yeah.
lot of others. Much better.
Mm. The year started terribly with gaming NFTs, with Cool Pets just getting delayed
Yeah,
and
that
delayed and then
was
disastrously.
what a fall from
Yeah,
grace in general that Cool
I
Cats has
know.
sort of had. Kind of a bummer because always only had good things to say about the project and still
Yeah,
really do. Um, but as we've talked about before, there's only so much attention and money and people in the space And once it goes, it's very tough to get it back, which is kind of what makes the Pudgy Penguins thing that we talked about earlier sort of so impressive.
Very impressive.
That they've had people really get sick of them and then somehow find their way back.
All right, Jamie, lay it on me.
So
My
here's your
terrible
prediction that to me seems extremely wrong. You said you think that in 2022 we will have a blow off top unlike anything we've ever seen before, making August look like nothing.
Yeah.
Which is extremely wrong. And your justification for it was pretty logical, sort of, in terms of you were talking about the financialization of these assets and the lending protocols, and you thought there would be enough of them to a degree that would allow people to kind of keep stacking and levering up on them, leading to explosive price action up and then down, which we saw more of a consistent gradual down without a real blow off top. We've had some in individual projects, but
yeah,
it certainly didn't make August of last year look like nothing,
no,
which was
it did not
what you had sort of said.
Yeah. I stand by that prediction. I think it had all the right ingredients. It was just, macro was terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
Russia
we had stuff like
invades
Luna
Ukraine,
and
inflation.
Three Arrows Capital and FTX that really got in the way of any sort of too bullish predictions.
Yeah. All right. I got 2 more for you and 3 more for me. So I'm going to go to one of mine again. Well, this is kind of 2 merge into one. I said, I think Gen Art, there'll be another surge for Gen Art, which I think is kind of fair to say.
I mean, if you grade it on the curve of all NFTs, it's super correct.
And then another one, which I'm giving myself half points for, is AI-related NFTs will have a really big moment in 2022. Which I don't think has really happened, but AI has clearly had a very huge
you're half right there. Just the fact that you kind of are merging it with the NFTs made you wrong. But certainly AI has come to the forefront in a big way this year. Only late this year too, really. The back
last
half of the year, I would say.
Yeah. Do you want to give yours?
Yeah. So this is one where it was a prediction that was pretty right, I would say, but then my justification for it was very wrong. So anyway, I'll give both of them. I said there was going to be a lot more NFT media coverage this year, and I thought in general it would be much more positive sentiment coverage, and the sentiment, in general would be more positive. I think that was pretty correct, not purely, because I think we've had enough of a bear market that there was a lot of coverage that could come out of the woodwork to laugh at it in a lot of ways. But I think also it was largely correct. But my reasoning for it was that we were going to have a lot more unique, interesting use cases for NFTs that would disabuse people of the notion that NFTs equal picture files, which I think I was very wrong about. All that theoretical stuff still seems super theoretical to me. I think, obviously there's been a couple, but a lot less of it than I had predicted. I do still think, in the future it will happen because, as we've talked about, you can do kind of anything on Ethereum, and an NFT is just a thing that exists on the network that is not fungible, right? And so it can represent sort of anything. But the degree to which we've had ones that weren't sort of just copycats of punks and apes and stuff like that, or pure art, very few and far between.
Yeah, I definitely agree. One example that we will see in the future is like, I recently applied for my Emirates ID because I'm moving to Dubai, and someone told me that they're actively exploring like having their official government IDs.
It made a ton of sense. Passports
NFTs.
in particular seemed like a thing that data being on chain makes so much sense to me. For one that is very much in sort of the win column on this, but still hasn't really happened yet. Flyfish Club to me really ticks that box of this is a unique use case. It's a unique way of funding, and it's a unique way of benefiting the funders or whatever. But the restaurant is still not open yet, so that one's still sort of theoretical.
TBD.
but that if I kind of thought there would be sort of more stuff of that ilk, and there was not.
I had that one as well on my list because I guess we overlapped. So I'm going to go to one of mine, and then I'll finish it off with one each that are both, I think, wins for both of us. My second last prediction is I said layer 2s are really going to come into their own, which I think we've seen. Like, there's been a lot of activity happening on Arbitrum, on Optimism, on Starknet. A lot of people airdrop farming and just like testing new protocols. I wouldn't say that they've like perforated into like sort of the mainstream. Proliferated. There we go. Into like the mainstream NFT community. I'm not even sure how much of the crypto community, but there's certainly been a ton of activity. But I mean, half marks here. I think
yeah,
really,
it does seem like when we're looking at like the mainstreaming that's happening in a lot of ways, Starbucks is in my mind, right? There's a lot of them that are trying to use that because obviously the gas fees are prohibitive and unacceptable in a lot of these use cases. And so in that sense, I think there's a lot of truth and accuracy to that prediction, and probably will continue to be, right?
Yeah, I think 2023 will be a bigger year for layer 2.
I just saw a tweet earlier today that's sort of in this ilk where they were basically talking about how up until now, so much of crypto communities and use cases and modalities of thinking and all of that was chain based, right? It's all about what chain are you on, what chain do you support, what chain do you think is interesting, and their thinking is that as time goes on, that's going to recede into the background more and more, and the apps built on top of it are really going to be what people are thinking about and caring about and having preferences for. And I think there's probably a lot of truth to that. I still feel that, to me, I still have a bit of F maximalism in my view of the crypto space. So in a sense, it feels like that'll be true, but also the way I'm viewing it, so much of it will be just on F. And so, it'll just be that is true, but all of those competing apps will be on F to some extent. It feels like to me still. If you look at like how poorly Solana has done, with them being one of the big theoretical competitors to it, right? And like AVAX has still, I think, not shipped anything seemingly. And then you have a lot of the other stuff that was like never even had communities that big, but like was hot for a second, like the internet computer and stuff like that. And obviously there's always Bitcoin, but the point of Bitcoin is that you're not supposed to be able to build on top of it all that easily. You're not supposed to be able to change it much. I would be kind of pleasantly surprised maybe if something could come along and really show us why F is deeply flawed, or limited is maybe a better word than flawed. But I don't necessarily see it happening with where the devs are and how nicely it feels like the F Foundation has sort of built out the ecosystem.
I agree with all of that. All right, last two predictions, and they're both accurate. I'm gonna go to mine first because yours is very on the money. Mine said, which I think is also accurate, we're going to get real OpenSea competitors. This has the potential to significantly change the landscape of 2022. Coinbase Marketplace was coming out, and they were saying March, and I said I don't think that Coinbase is going to be an OpenSea killer, which
it's super correct.
God, there was so much hype.
They took so long.
Yeah.
That was almost a thing a little bit like we touched upon with Cool Pets, where it seems like if they had struck while the iron was hot, it would have had a much better chance. But by the time it came out, people had sort of soured or stopped being interested. But certainly we've seen a lot of potential competitors, and even though none have been able to unseat them, they've chipped away at their market share, and certainly the battle for that has dramatically changed the landscape, royalties being the specific thing that has got fought over a lot lately.
Yeah. Looks Rare, X2Y2, and Blur. I think the big three.
And if you look at like generative art, we've had some specific ones that are sort of just tailored to that sub segment of the industry. Archipelago being the defunct one that I quite liked.
I think they're bringing it back, actually.
Oh, really? I did not hear that. It's interesting. And then Sansa was the new
Sansa.
one that you taught me about recently.
Yeah. Yeah. So that I would say very much on the money. And then yours, which if everyone listened to, they would probably be a lot better off, is you said, I think there are going to be more blue chip projects that we've never even heard of, which is quite accurate, I think. Yep. And a lot of the pseudo blue chips, i.e. the projects in the 0.3 to, you said 2.5 to even 5 ETH floor, are not going to make it because there's like not that many market participants and there's limited attention and there's too many projects that are in that mid tier that are like struggling to break out and they'll just fizzle out. And and we've seen so many projects
that
go from like 3 floor
true.
to 0.1. Yeah.
So
nailed it.
Yeah, when we were talking about the big things that we did this year, my three, I talked about sweeping the Artbox curated floor in May and June, and then selling a bunch of stuff in August. That August selling was sort of a bit of a manifestation of me just admitting that I was sort of right about that in a lot of these projects that I had dilly-dallied on and sort of hoped would continue or turn around or whatever, and it just never did. Now, most of those were ones that probably didn't even really ever get quite to the level that I was talking about there. Some certainly.
0.3. I mean,
yeah, but stuff like Littles and Woodies were kind of in there. But I also had a lot of stuff where it was like 0.05 or 0.07, and I bought 10 of them or whatever, and just nothing. But yeah, definitely tons of those second and third tier projects just really withered away this year.
Yeah, some of them are making a comeback.
Yeah,
I mean, Pudgy Penguins. Just, but it's they're the exceptions.
Yeah, and then
the vast majority.
The first part of it, we had new stuff like Renga as an example that came out of nowhere. And
Renga's doing well.
Quite legitimate.
Moonbirds, Valhalla.
Yeah. Digigaigaku or whatever, which we just talked about.
Digigaigaku.
Yep.
Yeah. 2023 predictions. Do we want to take a minute and think of some, or do we want to just go off the cuff and...
Let's go off the cuff because I think let's try and come up with 3 each. Okay.
3 each.
You go first, so I can have a little extra time to think.
I think we're going to see way more soulbound NFTs. It's like, for those who don't know, soulbound NFTs are effectively NFTs that can't be transferred. So you can't sell them, you can't trade them, you can't send them to another wallet. They're locked, and they're designed to reduce the speculative and financial element from NFTs, but you can still have utility baked in. You can use them to access a Discord server, or you can use them to, they can be dynamic and you can level them up. And then there's a lot of great utility that you can have. And we've started to see some of them, I think, towards the latter half of this year. And I think we're going to see them explode in the new year. Selfishly, obviously, I know that Zen Academy, we're coming out with our own student IDs. They're going to be soulbound, but I know that a few other people are experimenting with them as well. And I think we're just going to see it's just a lot more as they get more normalized.
And sort of stuff like that, the Starbucks thing that they're talking about. I don't know that they specifically are saying that it's soulbound, but it would make perfect sense where, when you're talking about something whose purpose is sort of to be a proof of identity on some level.
The Hugh Government ID.
Right. The point of it is not to be a tradable thing. Yeah. And that also kind of goes into my prediction from last year that didn't really come true, right? Where I'm talking about different use cases, different unique use cases for them. I think even though it didn't work out last year, I would like to kind of make it again because it just makes sense to me. It is in some ways a little bit troubling, maybe, that I can't come up with tons of ideas for them necessarily. But that also seems like it's not my job to have the creative and technical knowledge of the entire community, right? It would be unrealistic for me to think that I can predict everything that's going to happen or whatever. But in a general sense, I do think we're going to have more of that stuff, because, well, at the very least, it does seem like in a large way we're sort of done with the profile picture stuff, in terms of just rinsing and repeating the same roadmappy type thing that so many projects have done. We have sort of enough of those, and the ones that can come along that haven't been done before and succeed are going to have something interesting and unique and dynamic, about them. And then, so basically, almost by definition, it feels like any new NFT project that comes along and does succeed will have to be, because we just have enough options of the ones that are the same, basically, so to speak. And so I'm going to kind of push that as my prediction again, and hopefully be more right this time.
All right, how's this? I think the crypto bear market will continue for the whole year. So whatever happens to NFTs, maybe NFTs have, I think it's harder to predict. Not that it's easy to predict the crypto market, but I think that my prediction is that, macro is in a bad spot, crypto is in a terrible spot. The FTX, we're still seeing the fallout. Public sentiment is bad. I don't think we're going to get like ETH at 10K or 5K or Bitcoin at 100K. I think it's just going to be another year of, ETH between 1 and 2K, maybe 2.5K, something maybe drops to 800, bearish for the whole year.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. It does seem like a situation where they're just, are primed to have just kind of low volume in general. There's been so much bad stuff, bad press, that it's, a lot of the people that were possibly curious have probably been scared away. So it's hard to find the new buyers, the new incremental buyers. And the people that have managed to stick around through it, and haven't been really selling yet, what the hell would happen to make them sell? So to me, I'm kind of agreeing with you, but in much more of a sideways, low volume type of market than sort of traditionally bearish with continued pullback, because in this, like I just said, in the same vein that I feel like there's not new buyers, I don't feel like there's many incremental new sellers, really.
Yeah.
Maybe though, if you just kind of look at something like Bitcoin, right? They still have the inflation, right? They're issuing new coins from these miners, and the miners got to sell them to pay the bills. So in that sense, you kind of always have some level of forced selling. And Ethereum was able to largely sidestep that with the merge, but that was dependent upon there being sort of a lot of activity that caused the burning that negated the issuance. And if I'm predicting sort of low volume, that does sort of indicate that the inflation for Ethereum will probably go back up to much more what it was before, because there just isn't maybe going to be enough activity in or on the chain rather to end up with all of that burn. And so the inflation will come up, and then the increased supply without new buyers will have a downward pressure on price. But of course, we don't give any sort of financial advice on this podcast.
Oh,
That's
no.
not something that we can or would do.
Oh no. What's your second prediction?
Am I allowed to just take what I just said and count that where I'm saying
Nope.
sideways? No,
you did that the first time.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, in keeping with what you had said last year and what we're seeing with AI, turned out that you were right about AI, but not right about AI in terms of how it impacted NFTs. It just seems like there's too much overlap right now in the people that are interested in these things, and too much of the people in the space looking for something new, that we won't see something AI that is big this year in the space.
Yeah.
So, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think up until now we've had basically Botto, Eponym, and maybe Claire Silver specifically.
There's a bunch more.
But in terms of quite big, that's what I know of. I guess is what I'd say.
Deep Black.
Doesn't ring a bell.
2019, the first AI on chain. Robbie.
Yeah, the Lost Robbies. I
with the
remember
Lost
Robbie. That was the other one I was going to mention.
There was Fluff World with thingies. They're doing a lot with AI.
Oh, so
Alethea.
I know about Fluff World, and the thingies are like the spiders. I didn't know that there was an AI component to it.
Yeah, there's AI there where I think the NFTs can be imbued with AI and they can create art and new NFTs and stuff like that.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, so I think we're gonna probably see, like I had predicted, new blue chips out of nowhere. I think we're gonna see some AI blue chips coming in this year, and it'll be interesting to see if it's something as sort of simple, so to speak, as mid-journey outputs, right? That somebody's just becomes known for really curating them well. There'll probably be some of that, but also it'll be interesting to see if there's anything more dynamic where there's sort of a circular type thing happening where GPT text is being fed into this and that and the other thing, and sort of a self-evolving type of thing. I think we'll probably see some of each of that. This has been long enough that we don't necessarily need to do any of the other things, but it's become kind of fun to give away NFTs, I think, with the results of a game.
Yeah, we'll give away another.
Yeah, what game would you like to do it? Classic? What am I thinking?
What am I thinking?
Let's do it.
For the last time in 2022.
Okay, I've got a word already.
I also have a word.
3, 2, 1. Grip.
Chocolate.
Chocolate and grip.
Grip.
Chocolate and grip. That's interesting. Okay, I got a word.
I do not.
Yeah, it seems weird that I got a word that quickly, right? Because what the hell is connected to them? But I got something.
All right, sure.
3, 2, 1. Melt.
Bar.
Melt and bar. Melt.
I thought bar was really good.
Okay, great. Congrats to you on thinking that your answer was good.
I just don't get melt.
Well, if you grip chocolate, it will melt from your body heat.
Oh, right.
Okay. Melt.
We have bar and
bar.
melt.
Melt and bar. Only a couple ways you could go with this. I have my answer though.
Sure.
3, 2, 1. Pocket.
Liquid.
Liquid and pocket.
Mm.
Liquid and pocket. That seems a little difficult.
Okay. I got one.
I do not. That seems tough to connect to me, and you've already done it. Okay, you sure? I got one. 3, 2, 1. Detergent.
Hot.
Detergent. I was thinking of, a pant pocket.
I was thinking of Hot Pockets.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. You said, what did you say?
Hot
and detergent. Hot and detergent. Okay, I think we got a fairly logical one. I'm ready. 3, 2, 1. Laundry. Okay, well done, us. That was not too bad.
Not too bad at all. We started, especially from where we started from, chocolate and grip.
Yeah. Okay, so for new listeners or people who forgot, we're going to have a form in the show notes, and the password will be laundry. And if you do that, we're going to pick one random winner. 1 or 2 do you want to do?
Let's do 2.
2 random winners, and they will each get 1 NFT on the Tezos network. I'll send 1, you'll send 1. Or do you want to do...
So they'll each get 2
Okay,
NFTs.
So they'll each get 2. I'll send 1 to each, and you'll send 1 to each. And we'll have 2 randomly selected winners.
And that's it. That's a wrap. That's 2022.
Yeah. Oh, here, you know how we always like to say nice things or advice for people? I was kind of just...
Drink water, donate blood.
that kind of stuff. I was rereading one of my books. If you smoke cigarettes, like, you should really try and stop. I mean, you know it. I know it. Maybe 2023 is the year you give up that habit because it's just fucking really bad for you.
I completely agree, but I'm like a wannabe smoker. I love the smell of tobacco.
You're sort of undercutting me here.
But I can't smoke. I have asthma. It is... I don't enjoy smoking. but I like the smell of tobacco.
Yeah.
So
Here, I'll just add this. I've heard there's a book called The Easy Way to Quit Smoking by Alan Carr that really helps people quit. Thanks for listening.
thanks for listening.
Another year. See you next
See you
year,
in the new
right?
year.